Hi, I'm Shimelle Laine, and I'm here with a new video for you today, brought to you by Park and Carta Bella paper companies. Park and Carta Bella are sister paper companies. They work together and they release papers throughout the year, all sorts of different collections by different designers. And Carta Bella has kind of a more elegant feel, where Park has some of the younger collections, but that's not a 100% black and white rule or anything. They both have a variety of different styles. And today I'm working with the Hello Again collection for Carta Bella, and that's available in both 6x6 and 12x12. Of course, you can buy the individual pieces on their own as individual paper sheets, but today we're looking at collection packs. Thought I'd show you what you get in the two different packs. I've already taken the sticker sheet out, but you do get that in the 12x12 pack. So in the 12x12 collection pack, you get 12 different double-sided papers. And I'll just flip through these so you can have a look at this collection called Hello Again. It's designed by Caitlin Schaefer, who is the same designer behind Ormolu embellishments. So you can see some of her motifs repeat, especially in the sticker sheet. So in the collection pack, you get one of each of these double-sided sheets. And in the 12x12, they're a textured paper, really heavy duty. And what I do like about this one, because I'm not always a fan of textured paper, my problem with textured paper is often that the colors then seem really saturated on screen if you buy it online, but when you get it, the colors are more washed out because of the printing style of the textured paper. But in this particular collection, they've done a really good job of keeping the saturation on the textured paper. So even though it's a textured paper, a bit like a watercolor cardstock, it still has really intense color. Like this navy blue is a proper navy blue. It's not washed out. So I really like this because it's the change in the color that I'm not always 100% keen on with a textured paper. But this, you can see where you have the ombre effect, you can definitely tell that the saturation of the colors stays true, and you're seeing on paper what you get on the screen. And then, so you have 12 double-sided paper, including those two cut-apart sheets. Go back to those. So there's a 6x4 cut-apart sheet, and a smaller one with 3x4 cards, if I can find it. There it is. Okay, sorry. And a 3x4 cut-apart sheet. So those are both included in the 12x12 collection pack, or you can buy all of those different papers as individual sheets. And then there's a 12x12 sticker sheet, also available individually, or it comes in the pack. Then with the 6x6 option, these are flat paper, and if I put them side by side, you can see how they have kept the color nice and rich, because this is the same print on flat and on textured, and the colors are consistent. Sometimes when they do that, then the color in the 6x6 is a great saturation. And when I say they, I don't mean Carta Bella, I mean just paper companies in general. But so the colors are definitely even between the two, which is nice. Okay, so you get 24 double-sided sheets in the 6x6, except you don't get the cut-aparts. They're not shrunk down to the smaller size, but the rest of the patterns are all the same. So you're getting two extra patterns here that you don't get, and it's this pink and white and orange floral. And then in addition to having the aqua wash, which you get in the other set, there's also a blue one. So you get both tones. So you get two of each design, because there are 24 here instead of 12 like in the big pack. Okay, I think that covers the product pretty well. So that's the collection. And today I'm going to walk through a layout where I'm going to do things a little bit differently to my normal page, because I tend to always start with a pattern paper. And today I'm going to be starting with a sheet of white cardstock, and I will not lie, it's a little bit intimidating for me. The idea here, the challenge I've set myself, is to make a layout where I could illustrate if I had made this away from home. Clearly I'm in my own space because I'm filming, but if I needed to make this somewhere else, how light could I pack and still stay true to the style that I like to use on my pages? So I'm going to be using the 6x6 paper pad, a sheet of white cardstock, and then I've chosen some other elements that I'm going to use to embellish. I'm going to use the 12x12 sticker sheet, 2 colors of mist, and the Heidi Swapp Color Shine colors are a great match to this collection. The primrose matches really well with this kind of corally orangey pink, and the mint green goes really well with the greens in this collection. So I have those 2 colors of mist, and I've chosen a nice neutral thicker alphabet, which is from the newest Amy Tangerine collection. So this font is called Collage, and that's a foam thicker in white. So I'm trying to use things that would keep my packing really light if I wanted to go scrap at crop or somewhere else, but that I could still make plenty of pages. I'm just going to show you one today, but the idea of scrapbooking with a 6x6 paper pad and just taking a few sheets of 12x12 cardstock means that I should still be able to get quite a few layouts because I have a lot of paper, but it doesn't take up much room. So that's my challenge, and I will be adding a few little bits and pieces as I go because I haven't really packed to go away. I am here in my normal space, but I want to keep it as light as possible, and then I'll review again at the end how much I really would have had to take in with me to make that exact layout. Starting off with that white 12x12 cardstock and my 2 colors of mist. I'm going to do a little bit of a variation on the normal diagonal line that I use, and that's to do 2 horizontal lines with some diagonal smaller dots coming off to the corner. And I'm going to do that in the 2 colors, but I'm going to use large dots and small dots is my plan to do some larger drops of green at the top and coral at the bottom, and then go back with smaller droplets in the opposite color. Now some of this will get covered up, so I'm not too worried about the fact that there's a lot going on there now. And just add in some smaller ones up here. And then I want the smaller droplets of green down here in the bottom corner. And then I'll clean my brush and repeat this in the opposite color scheme so that I have the coral dots, or primrose I suppose it's called, running at the bottom of the page in the large droplets with some small droplets of that mixed in at the top. And I want those droplets in coral to run down toward that bottom corner of the page. And then small droplets of coral up here at the top. And I'll let all that dry, and then I'm going to be building my paper elements on top of that splattered background. Okay, on to the actual theme of the page and making things work. I'm using 2 photographs that are, they were kind of single snaps that I took at places where we eat lunch and dinner and things like that. And I took them just of the moment to kind of have a little bit of everyday documentation, but then they just kind of sat in my photo stack for a while because I didn't really think that either of them was worth a full 12 by 12 page. It didn't have that long of story, but I realized if I put them together, then I could do some journaling that would go along with the theme of the places that we currently go to eat. So it seemed like together they were a bit stronger than on their own, even though they're not from the same date or place or anything like that. To mat the 4 by 4 square photos, I then went to the 6 by 6 paper pad and found 2 different prints for each photo that would fit with these colors. So one of the pinky coral version and one in the aqua, and then just alternated. So I have the photos are 4 inches, then that first mat is about 4.5, and then the large one is just shy of 5 inches. But I made sure that they aren't exactly the same from side by side. So you can see if I line them up there, they're just a little bit different. Because I wanted to have them kind of offset and uneven rather than perfectly lined up in a row. Now, I think I'll start with those back layers and get them all in place and build up to the photo on top. Oh, and now I've covered up all my green. Let me move this down rather than up. That's a bit better. And then the photo on top, of course. Okay, so I know that I want to have room to write because otherwise these photos aren't going to make sense without that angle of the journaling that I'd figured out. And I have some nice white space that's just naturally occurring here. So I think maybe up here would be a good place for the writing that comes in sentences, kind of describing the whole idea of the fact that we eat in these restaurants and blah blah blah, and then down here perhaps then a list of the different places that we tend to go to frequently. I did want to add maybe a little bit around here with some black ink. Both of these photos, they're taken on my phone with 2 different apps. These are the 2 filters that I use most often. This one is a vignette that's added in an app called Camera Plus, and this one is one of the lens and film combinations in the Hipstamatic app. So this one is more distressed, and it also gives the photos more of a vintage tint, where this one you can see the color is a lot brighter, but then it has this more narrow black frame around the edge. To emphasize that, then I added black ink to the edges of the paper, and I wanted to do some stamping around the sides here, also in black ink. And I have this Ormolu stamp set that has some motifs that match the sticker sheet. So you can start to see, for example, the glue bottle appears on both, and a few different elements there, and similar types of basically just a similar style to the visual there. So I think these stamps will work really well, and I had these already. These were in a product list for Best of Both Worlds earlier in the year. So I thought this would be a good set to add some stamping around the edge in black ink to just frame these 2 corners, which then means that I'm going to bring the stamping close to where I'll be writing in black ink as well. Okay, with that stamping finished and my journaling added, now I know exactly how much room I have left on the page to add my title and any further embellishment. So I can go to this large sticker sheet to see what elements from there are going to be best to embellish the space that I have remaining and figure out where I would want the title, because of course I've given myself a little bit of a challenge here that perhaps I didn't think through, and that's that I have a white cardstock background and white foam letter stickers. So I need to figure out a way that I either want the title to be quite subtle and tone on tone, or I need to find a way to add another layer or place the title on top of something so that I have a bit of contrast. I'm going to try the white on white, tone on tone title. And my title comes from an old television quote where they were in the scene they're cooking and someone says hypnotized by food could be my Indian name, and it's always stuck in my mind that when I'm taking pictures of food and things that it's a very true sentiment. So I figured I could use just the beginning of that line to kind of feed into the journaling. And now this is leaving me thinking that I need some embellishment in this corner, especially something larger down here, even though there's not a huge amount of room, but something here, and also a little bit of something in these two corners here. Since I have all the ink there, I need to have something with some color that's going to work there. Now, on the sticker sheet, I have one sticker that I know I want to include on this page, the good time plus good food, which I think will work really well with some pop dots, but it's a skinny little sticker, so I need to cut my pop dots in half. And then the others, I'm also thinking this one could work well because it's certainly, the journaling is places that we go together. And then I want something, I don't know that the floral is perhaps the best for this theme, but I might give it a try. So see if some of the motifs as well as the words could work. Okay, in addition to the two little simple word strip stickers, I think I am going to be a bit bold and go with this large floral sticker, but I'm going to cut it in half so that I can use part up here and part down here. So I tend to do the cutting straight on the sheet just to have a little bit more control. And this should give me two pieces that I can then tuck behind and add a few little pop dots just at the edges to give the leaves a little bit of dimension there. And then the other piece can come up here to the top corner. And I realized that flowers for a food layout might be not particularly on theme, but it doesn't really bother me. It's okay. And then maybe seems to need maybe just some small pieces around here. Let's see what else from the sticker sheet would be a good idea. Got some little pieces like these arrows. Normally I like the arrows to point to something that should be kind of a focus on the page to direct the eye. Might work nicely here on the frame. And then there's one in the green. So I could do the same thing over here. And then I have some smaller little flowery bits that I could scatter in amongst here. But I'm really not convinced on those small stickers, so I think I actually prefer without. Okay, so I think at this point there's two things that I'm thinking would be useful here. One is that I'd really like to add a colored border around the outside of the page, but I have gone quite near the edge. I can cut on this side, that's okay. And what I need to do is just take the ascenders here, the H and the D, to be able to trim a little bit here and choose one of the 12 by 12 papers to be a background. So what I can do is just have a quick look at what it would look like as a frame around the edge, because of course some patterns will work better than others. And normally works well with smaller patterns, but sometimes something like this, where if you use it just around the edge, it doesn't matter that the pattern itself is a bit larger because you just want to show a little bit of the color, and it doesn't really matter that you can't tell what the exact pattern is. I do often like this sort of multicolored stripe, so that's possible. I'll put that in a separate pile. Oops. That one wouldn't offer enough contrast. And then I can just come back through on the other side so I get the B sides of the papers. See if there's anything I like better than that multicolored stripe. Quite like this one. Put that in the maybes. That's the same pattern but in a different color, and I like this one too, but I think that makes it a little bit too pink, where the yellow gave it a bit more balance. That's going to be the same thing there, just a bit too pink for this particular layout. That one works quite well. Black and white's a bit too harsh, and this one would work fine as well. So now I have just, I think, 4 options, so I can look at just these. Now, this is something that I would do with a collection pack, but I wouldn't do if I was just choosing from all of my supplies, because I would literally just pick the first one that I found that worked. But because the collection pack is a small gathering and it's not going to lead me to go through my infinite collection of paper or something. It's truly not infinite, I promise, but it could seem like that if I go through lots and lots of options. But 4 I can handle. So I have the green is nice for color, but it's not really going to show any pattern. It's just going to look like solid cardstock. I do quite like this one. And I like that this offers contrast. It's going to pick up on this little bit of yellow. There's also some warm yellowy type tones to the pictures themselves. And I think this is a better option than the multicolored stripe, because the multicolored stripe is again on white. So although I like the idea of introducing the whole color scheme around the edge, I wish that there was something here to separate the white from the white. Just like the little bit more contrast. So I think this is my winner, and I'm going to cut down the layout so that I have a small frame of this around the edge. So I like how this works now with the frame around the edge and these 2 letters going just a little bit over the edge of the white and onto the yellow. And I do want to bring this white on white in somewhere else, and I said that I wanted some embellishment down here, which I haven't done, so I'm going to add the year there in number stickers. Just trying to figure out which would be best, to have it go up or down this side that way. And then I want to be able to add a little bit of something to the top and bottom corners here with the flowers that has some slightly different texture. So I think easiest there would be probably enamel dots or gems, and I might also pull in a little bit of tape to have just a little bit of a horizontal element. The interesting thing that's happened on this page is that when I started it in my mind, imagining working with the two photos with little mats of paper, then kind of expanding, I didn't realize that it would expand to fill so much, and it has ended up filling a lot more of the page space than I imagined in my head. I thought it would be a little bit more compact, but once I had the writing in place, and it kind of expanded to quite a lot, but that's okay. Just a little bit different than how I first saw it in my head, and that happens a lot. Okay, so I'm going to try and find some enamel dots or gems or something, and some tape in a color that will match, just to finish up these little corners here. I have two washi tapes that I think will help just add a little bit of finish. So I've got one in a polka dot from Bella Boulevard, and their tapes are a bit thicker. They're not translucent like washi. I think they call them a designer tape, which is ever so slightly different. And then the next one is a washi, and it's from Freckled Fawn, which is a yellow with a white arrow, and then every so often there's a little red heart. And I think I can bring that in here. Yeah. And this one is quite narrow. Well, they're both quite narrow, but not ultra. It's not like a fine line like racing stripe tape some of them are getting. So you get really wide right the way down to really thin. But this one is just, these are both a little bit smaller than normal, or average, I suppose. And I liked the idea of being able to have something that would wrap around the edge of the page there. And then thinking also something that could just add a little horizontal element here, but I don't want this to go all the way across to the edge of the page. Just bring in a little bit of the design. I'm wondering if I could actually tuck this underneath that sticker, but I think I've stuck it too fast. Nope, I haven't. Right, let's see if I can get this in the place where it would look best, which is right at the bottom of this flower. And then pop the flower back down on top. So just a tiny little bit, and then I can repeat that idea down here. And of course, you won't, you'll think of these things in advance, and you won't sit there wondering if you're going to accidentally rip your page apart when you're trying to add a little finishing touch. But, you know, it's living on the edge. It's okay. And I did find a few enamel dots that would work well with these colors. So I think I can scatter them up here with all the flowers and ink dots. And that should help to give a little bit of texture and movement, and just to emphasize the pattern of the ink in the background. I only have two left, so I might as well use them. I'm not going to use two on a separate page. That mix. Okay, I think I have everything that I wanted to include. So thank you to Echo Park and Carta Bella for sponsoring today's blog hop, and I hope that you will go through and have a look at the projects and videos from the others that are participating today. And if you find a channel that you like that's new, go ahead and subscribe. If you're new here and you want to see more videos, please go ahead and click the subscribe button so that you can get my videos sent straight to your YouTube account. And I also have a weekly series on Two Peas in a Bucket that goes live every Wednesday called The Adventures of Glitter Girl. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.